Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, first and foremost. It's a huge honor to be speaking at Creative Mornings, and especially to have you all here at my work home, Swift. And just have to say thank you to Sam. We shared a stage earlier this year, and he blew me away, and so I'm trying to share him with as many people as possible. So when I heard today's theme was taboo, I got really excited. And this theme, it resonates with me, both personally and professionally. Personally, because breaking taboos, it's in my family genes. And professionally, because every day I see how taboos, especially taboos around gender and femininity, hold our industry back and stifle creativity. And I come from a family of taboo breakers, the biggest being my mom. She liked proving people wrong, and especially when it came to expectations of women. And she was good at it. She was really good at it. The first taboo she broke was just by being a career woman at a time when most people had trouble putting those two words in the same sentence. And the second is she was an ER doctor in inner city Philadelphia. And this was in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s when inner city Philadelphia was the murder capital of the nation. And she dealt with gunshot wounds and stabbings and gang fight casualties. And she was driven. She was very unapologetic. And she was incredibly good at her job. And she didn't let critics get in her way. She didn't let people talk her out of the work that she was so passionate about, despite the fact that it was actually a really dangerous job. And she constantly fought to be taken seriously. She fought for a fair salary. She fought for respect and recognition. And she really just fought to be in the room. And she had to do that at work, but she also had to do it in her social life, because being a mother, a wife, and a doctor were very alien and threatening to both women and men at that time. But none of that stopped her. She just plowed through those taboos. And what makes her story more remarkable is that she didn't come from a long line of rule breakers. Her father, he owned a bar in South Jersey. She was not expected to go to college. She certainly wasn't expected to be the first one in her family to earn a degree. And so she didn't just get one, she went and got two, and she did it on full scholarship. And she also had 3 kids along the way. So it's no surprise that I'm a feminist, and it's no surprise that I enjoy challenging gender barriers at work. I always had that example right there in front of me, and my mom would tell me over and over again, you can do anything you work really hard at. And who was I not to believe her? She's living proof that achieving your goals and creating opportunity is possible. And I own my fearlessness, and I really credit my mom with that gift. But it hasn't always been a gift. It has also caused me quite a bit of trouble in my career. And throughout my career, I have been called fearless, opinionated, competitive. And I've received that feedback casually from peers, but also in formal performance reviews. And they were not compliments. Gets better. Ambitious, maybe a bit too ambitious. Someone who speaks her mind, often too freely. Willing to say unpopular things. Unafraid of what others thought. Are you sensing a pattern? I did. I started to sense that the people providing me with this feedback thought I was difficult. A difficult woman, not unlike our friend Hillary and how people described her. And by the way, the people making these assessments, they were women and men. And for the record, I love men. My husband of 13 years, he is my greatest supporter. I have 2 business partners here at Swift, both men. They're lifelong friends. 40% of our staff here are incredibly, incredibly talented men. So this is not about male bashing at all. But going back to those criticisms, how people were describing me, the feedback I was getting, it just wasn't how I saw myself. And from where I sat, those traits that others deemed negative and that were being coached out of me, I knew that they were going to be essential to my professional success. And so I knew it was time to flip the script. And I've been telling this story for a while, and more often lately, because one of the taboos that's still very much in place concerns women who are comfortable being in charge. Women who really like it, in fact, and are also proud, equally proud, of being a woman, of being feminine. So I knew I would be happier and most likely find greater professional success if I went out on my own. And I also knew that I would be able to create the kind of environment that I was craving as an employee. So I found a like-minded business partner, Alicia McVeigh. She's in the back there. She's our Chief Creative Officer. And together, we founded Swift. And that was 11 years ago, and here we are. And in those 11 years of finding clients and keeping them, of attracting talent and helping them develop, of building a business and constantly working to make it better, I learned something. I learned a lot of things, but I realized that all those qualities that were being coached out of me, they were essential to my success as an entrepreneur. It's a really good thing I didn't listen. And maybe some of you have experienced this too. To me, being fearless means you go after opportunities with confidence. Oftentimes, having a strong opinion, it means you have a clear point of view. And being competitive, it means you're in it to win it. You go after things assuming that you're going to prevail. And these attributes, they've been absolutely critical to growing a successful business and making 1,000 hard decisions along the way. But it's truly only half the story, because starting, running, growing a successful business isn't just a matter of being this hard-charging entrepreneur. You also have to be motivating. You have to have a vision that other people buy into. And you have to build and nurture trusting relationships. And for that, I have drawn on a very different set of skills and traits. Empathy, transparency, collaboration, communication. These are often called soft skills, less tangible, and they're also often traits associated with being a woman. And unfortunately, they're traits that happen to be devalued in favor of more masculine traits in the business world. But I know from my own experience that it can't be one or the other. It takes both. Successful managers, leaders, doers, they're those that can be assertive and speak their minds, but they also have to inspire and listen, not intimidate. A person who unites a team and then shares credit, and someone who cares more about effectiveness than ego. That is what we need more of. And for so long, too long, we've applauded masculine ways of doing business, and we've neglected so-called feminine traits. But we live in a very different world now. In today's business world, where our economy, it's super connected, it's hyper-social, it's powered by creatives, by knowledge workers, by innovators, it just won't do for the good of our balance sheet, but also for the good of the human race. We need to strike a new balance between so-called masculine and feminine traits. And striking this balance begins with redefining femininity. The future is female. It's gaining a ton of traction these days, and for good reason. In January, 4.2 million people marched on Washington in what is considered to be the largest day of demonstration in American history. And despite the fact that we haven't shattered the ultimate glass ceiling and that we have a troll-in-chief running the country, against these odds, women have made incredible professional gains. A little over 25 years ago, less than half of professional and managerial jobs were held by women. And now, within the span of just one generation, more than half of those jobs are held by women. We're in the halls of power. We have seats at the table. We're in the room. And being a female CEO, it's no longer an oxymoron. Look at all these powerful women. And in so many ways, it's great to be a professional woman these days. I really wish my mom could be back in the workforce today. She was a trailblazer at her time, but now she wouldn't just be one of the only female doctors in that giant hospital. She would have been running the place. And of course, today, women, we contend with different taboos. It's customary for mothers to work outside the home now, but they still face incredible pressure and judgment from employers, from peers, and themselves. And while most women talk freely now about their families without fear of losing out on opportunities, a decade ago, this wasn't necessarily true. Meredith Chase, she's our VP of Strategy here, she shared a story with me, and I've heard it many times, really, over the past 10 years. She felt like it was a taboo to admit that she had a family when she worked at other agencies and brands. And she never mentioned the fact that she had kids at work. And she didn't do this because she felt like it would seem like she wasn't 100% dedicated to the company, that her loyalties were split. And of course her loyalties were split, as they should be. And 10 years ago, the gender balance at the top, it was far more lopsided than it is today. And people, they just didn't believe that a working mom could juggle the responsibilities of raising kids and keep pace with the demands of a big corporate job. And they just didn't know that women and men, they can be effective as hell in 40 hours a week and still have time for the other things in their life that matter to them. Well, today, Meredith's kids, they come to the office, and she leads a large team here. She has a tremendous amount of responsibility, but she doesn't have to miss out on sports and parent-teacher conferences and dinner at home, basic dinner at home after work. We're making progress, and we should celebrate all these gains, but we should push for more. And from my experience, it's not just who's at the table, it's also a matter of what they do and how they act when they're in the room. And this is where striking that balance between masculine and feminine energy is so important. It's something we're not used to talking about, but we have to if we want to continue to make progress. We're all human, and that comes with our fair share of masculine and feminine energy. And I'd argue that we'd be better served by recognizing this and using it as a strength in business. And I didn't realize I was really doing this for the past 10 years. And if you look back at your own successes, maybe you might not either. But when we give something a name, we can start to leverage it to advantage. We can redefine and reclaim femininity as a powerful part of human identity that we all, women and men, can channel and apply. And that's my point today. We're not all female, but we can all be feminine. I'm going to say that again. Let it sink. We're not all female, but we can all be feminine. In fact, if we want to succeed in this crazy world we're living in right now, we all need to be feminine. And that may seem taboo, but in 5 years, I really hope that's not the case. And breaking this taboo, it's going to take a lot of work. So for example, if you look up femininity, you do a Google search, the top result is this. It's the quality of being female, womanliness. And it's kind of circular, but it's fine. But to illustrate the concept, they include this example. She celebrates, laugh, get it out, she celebrates her femininity by wearing makeup and high heels. There it is. The fundamental idea of what it means to be a woman is bound up in appearance, Still, today, it's 2017. And if you do the same search for image results, this is what you get. We didn't Photoshop this. This is out of touch, right? How many women relate to this? How many men? It's time to give femininity the overhaul it deserves. And this overhaul, it starts by recognizing just how tilted the playing field is. It's not just that our view of femininity is outdated, it's that we still see the feminine in a negative light. The author Julia Serrano, she helps explain her point in her book, The Whipping Girl, and she explored this idea of empowering femininity, and she got a ton of pushback about this idea. People thought it was crazy to think of femininity as something that you would want to empower, and this outcry, it came from women and men. And for Serrano, this pushback, it was rooted in the basic bias that we have about femininity. And her words here, of course, the reason why it's particularly easy to ridicule the idea of empowering femininity is because we already harbor dismissive attitudes towards anything considered feminine. We trivialize the very essence of femaleness. We diminish it as girly, fragile, emotional, unserious, unintelligent. And we also don't value women who show a mix of what are traditionally viewed as masculine and feminine traits. And you see this in the professional feedback that women receive. Women are often criticized for the same attributes that men are praised for. Fortune magazine, they did a study of 284 high performers in tech, and they found that women were more likely to receive critical feedback than men. And what stands out to me was the kind of criticism that women received versus men. Men tended to receive feedback, more constructive criticism. They were given, suggestions on how to improve around their weak spots. And the women, well, they got suggestions on how to improve, but they also got heaps of personality feedback that the men just didn't have to endure. Concerning leadership, women were considered abrasive, bossy, strident. Abrasive alone came up 17 times to describe 13 women. If they objected to something, they were deemed emotional, irrational. Of all these adjectives, only aggressive, it appeared on men's reviews and only 3 times, and 2 of them were in a positive context, telling men they needed to be more aggressive. In another study called Can Angry Women Get Ahead? Yes, that is the name of the study. A Yale psychologist, she asked male and female employees to evaluate executive performance, and she found that women executives who spoke frequently, they were rated 14% lower than their chatty male colleagues, and the men were given 10% higher ratings. If this kind of bias is allowed to persist, women are going to be discouraged from sharing their point of view, and no one wants to appear incompetent, so you stop talking and you stop taking risks. And speaking out at work then becomes a taboo. And that has major repercussions for all of us. Those 2 studies, they really resonated with me, and really they just pissed me off. And maybe you're feeling a little pissed off too. I think that's a good thing. So we're going to change this. How much potential are we wasting because we don't value the fundamental traits that make us human? How many would-be entrepreneurs out there, both women and men, are not taking that step to create something new because they're not unleashing or empowering their femininity? We're going to redesign this concept and give people the freedom to unleash its power, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because it makes business sense. The writer Hannah Rosen, she talks about this, and she boils it down in a really simple way. She notes, in the old economy, the economy that was powered by heavy manufacturing, size and strength mattered. But in our new economy, the economy of high tech and services and creativity, information-based careers, this market, it's indifferent to size and strength. What matters today is collaboration, communication, empathy. And those traits, They just happen to be ones traditionally associated with femininity. And therein lies the power to reframe our definition of femininity into something positive, smart, strong. We're not all female, but we can all be feminine. So, how do we get there? I have some ideas. First, let's try a modern definition of femininity. Something like the ability to build community through a shared vision. One who combines facts with intuitive insights to make decisions. Strength and empathy all rolled into one. Here at Swift, we have all the drive to be a world-class creative agency. And that's kind of a male mindset, assuming that you can be the best. But the difference is how we achieve those ambitions. We believe that we work best together, that a great idea can come from anywhere, that you need to think really big, but sweat the small stuff, and that you have to get it wrong to get it right. And these principles, they're part of a philosophy that guides our approach to business, but also our approach to people. We don't throw anyone under the bus to get ahead. We don't put a lot of stock in hierarchy. If you're in the room, we want to hear your voice regardless of your age or your title. And the best part about these values is that they've been crowdsourced from our employees, both women and men. So how will we know when we've made progress? Well, we're going to change Google. Let's make sure their knowledge graph is pulling from up-to-date examples of femininity. For me, I'll know we've made progress when I Google femininity and I get a result like this. Yay. She celebrates her femininity by getting shit done. Or this. She celebrates her femininity by negotiating her salary successfully. Or he celebrates his femininity by playing with dolls of female world leaders. In addition to fixing that Google result, there's two things that you can do, and whether that's you're a leader, you're a peer, or you're an employee. First, help create workplaces that champion a true definition of femininity. You can encourage your colleagues to embrace their masculine and their feminine traits to become better managers, better humans. There's nothing taboo about that. And managers, teachers, even parents in the room, the next time you write a performance review or you give feedback to a female coworker, pause if your instinct is to use these words: opinionated, pushy, emotional, and change them to forthright, driven, or passionate. And if you're on the receiving end of this criticism, stand up for yourself. I always tell people, know what you are excellent at and own and articulate your unique value that you bring to your job. And when you have that, you can defend it and you can feel confident as you build your career in the direction that you want to go. And make sure your manager and your company knows your unique value too. And if they still don't see it, assess your situation. Consider your appetite for risk, take stock of your finances, consult your support network, and if all signals are go for it. Get out there, conquer the world. So I'm going to wrap this up with two very encouraging examples, some proof that there is hope. First, this. I'm sure many of you have seen it. I love it. The fearless girl, this awesome statue staring down the charging bull. This is a fierce symbol of femininity, and it's put there by an investment firm to bring awareness to how few women sit on corporate boards. And this is really smart when you consider that firms where women make up 1/3 of corporate leadership, C-suite, and board-level positions, they're 15% more profitable than companies with no women at the top. And you can call this a marketing stunt, but this has made its way around the world. And if this image of determination can serve as more than a symbol and inspire more girls and women to be CEOs and chairwomen, and instill with them the conviction that being a powerful woman is not a taboo, then we're getting somewhere. And second, my own bit of personal evidence. last year, I was presenting to a very large group of CEOs, and I was saying unpopular things. And at the end, a fellow CEO, he turned to me, and he looked at me and he said, "God, you're fearless." And for the first time in my life, it was a compliment. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.